The morning sun cast long shadows across the great arena of Zephyria Prime. Commander Thexani stood on the observation platform. Her forearms crossed behind her back as she watched the final preparations below. Her chitinous exoskeleton gleamed dark blue in the light, and her compound eyes tracked every movement with military precision. Today was the day of the trials of valor. Warriors from across the galaxy would gather to show their skill with plasma weapons. This was not just any competition. This was sacred. The Ascended Ones themselves had blessed this tournament thousands of years ago. Only those chosen by the gods could truly master plasma energy. Thexani had participated in the trials 7 times. She had won twice. The memory of holding pure plasma energy in her blessed gauntlets still made her hearts race. There was no feeling like it in the universe. The power of the gods flowing through her hands. "Commander," called Subleader Krixtal from below. "The first delegation has arrived." Thexani looked toward the landing platform. A sleek vessel with crystal formations growing from its hull touched down. The Velthari had arrived. These tall, thin beings looked like living glass. Their transparent bodies caught the light and split it into rainbows. They were beautiful and deadly with plasma weapons. "Good," Thexani said. "Have them taken to the preparation chambers." More ships arrived throughout the morning. The Gorlak came in their massive metal vessels. These rock-like beings were slow but incredibly strong. Their plasma hammers could crush mountains. The ethereal Shivak arrived in ships that seemed to float on pure energy. Their snake-like bodies could twist plasma into impossible shapes. Each species had their gift from the Ascended Ones. Each had their blessed way to use plasma energy. The Sacred Codex told them all exactly how their abilities worked. The gods had written the laws of physics themselves. No one could break them. Thexani walked down to the arena floor. The sand had been blessed by the high priests. Special crystals were buried beneath it to focus divine energy. The plasma generation arrays hummed with power. Everything was perfect. "Commander Thexani," came a voice behind her. She turned to see High Priest Velmor approaching. His robes were white and covered in holy symbols. His old face was serious. "High Priest," Thexani said, bowing her head. "The arena is ready." "Good, the Ascended Ones watch us today. We must honor them properly." Velmor paused. "There is something you should know. A new species has requested to join the trials." Thexani's antenna twitched with surprise. "New species who?" "They call themselves humans. They are from a world on the rim of the galaxy, very new to the Covenant. Their request was unusual." "How so?" Velmor looked uncomfortable. "They claim they have warriors who can use plasma weapons, but they have no record of divine blessing, no mention in the Sacred Codex. The council debated for hours whether to allow them." Thexani frowned. Every species that could use plasma was mentioned in the Sacred Codex. The Ascended Ones had written down all their gifts when they first made contact. If these humans were not in the book, how could they use plasma? What did the council decide? "The law is clear. Any member of the Covenant may request to join the trials. We cannot refuse them, but—" Velmor shook his head. "I do not expect much. They are primitive creatures, soft, weak. They only discovered space travel a few hundred years ago." A new ship appeared in the sky. It was smaller than the others and looked simple. No crystal formations or energy fields, just metal and ceramic. It landed with a thud that shook the ground. "Ah," Velmor said. "Here they come." The ship's door opened. 5 beings walked out. Thexani stared. She had seen pictures of humans before, but seeing them in person was strange. They were so small, so fragile looking. Their skin was pink and soft. They had only 2 arms and 2 legs. No natural armor, no claws or fangs. How had these creatures survived long enough to reach the stars? The humans wore simple white suits that covered their entire bodies. Only their faces were visible through clear helmets. They walked carefully, like they were not used to this world's gravity. One of the humans stepped forward. The nameplate on the suit read Chen. This one seemed to be their leader. "Greetings," Chen said through a translator device. The voice was higher than Thexani expected. "I am Captain Sarah Chen of the Terran Defense Force. We are honored to participate in your sacred trials." High Priest Velmor stepped forward. "Welcome, humans. I am High Priest Velmor. This is Commander Thexani, who oversees the trials. We hope you understand the significance of what you attempt today." "We do," Chen said. "Our people have great respect for the traditions of the Covenant." Thexani studied the human captain. There was something in her voice. Confidence, maybe. But what did she have to be confident about? These creatures had no divine blessing, no mention in the sacred codex. How could they hope to compete with species chosen by the gods? Very well, Velmor said. The trials will begin in 1 hour. Please prepare yourselves. The humans were shown to a preparation chamber. Thexani watched them go. Other species in the arena were also watching. Some looked curious. Others seemed amused. The Gorlak delegation was actually laughing. Their deep rumbling voices echoed across the arena. This should be interesting, Sub-Leader Krixtal said, joining Thexani. Interesting is one word for it, Thexani replied. Embarrassing might be another. The hour passed quickly. Representatives from each species gathered in the center of the arena. Thousands of spectators filled the stands. This was being broadcast across the galaxy. Everyone would see the sacred trials. Thexani took her place at the judges' platform. The plasma generation arrays powered up with a deep humming sound. Energy crackled in the air. The smell of ozone filled the arena. Welcome, High Priest Velmor called out, his voice amplified across the arena. Today we honor the Ascended Ones with displays of their divine gifts. Let all who watch remember the power of the gods. The crowd cheered. Thexani felt the familiar thrill. This was what she lived for. The connection to the divine. The proof that the gods still watched over them. The Velthari went first. Their warrior, Silandra, was a master of her craft. She put on her blessed focusing crown and stepped up to the plasma array. Energy flowed from the machine like liquid fire. Silandra caught it with her crystalline hands and shaped it into a perfect sphere. She made it dance through the air in complex patterns. Beautiful, precise, exactly as the sacred codex described. The crowd applauded. This was how plasma should be used. With divine blessing and proper form, the Gorlak champion went next. Morgrak was massive even for his species. His blessed hammer was the size of a tree trunk. He caught the plasma bolt with his weapon and compressed it into a tiny point of incredible heat. When he released it, it carved a perfect line through a metal target. More applause, more proof of divine favor. One by one, each species demonstrated their gifts. The Sivak twisted plasma into living shapes. The Keithvar created precise cutting beams. Each performance was exactly what the sacred codex said was possible for their kind. Finally, it was humanity's turn. Captain Chen stepped forward. She walked to the center of the arena and stopped in front of the plasma array. Thexani leaned forward. This would be quick. The human would try something, fail, and that would be the end of it. But then Chen did something unexpected. She began removing her gloves. What is she doing? Krixtal whispered. Thexani's compound eyes focused on the human's hands. They were small, pale, completely unprotected. No blessed gauntlets, no focusing crystals, just bare skin. This is madness, High Priest Velmor muttered. Bare flesh cannot touch plasma. It will burn through her instantly. Chen finished removing her gloves. She looked up at the judge's platform and nodded. Then she turned to face the plasma array. The machine powered up. Energy crackled. A bolt of pure plasma streaked toward the human. What happened next would change everything. The plasma bolt flew toward Captain Chen like a spear of pure fire. Thexani watched in horror, expecting to see the human destroyed instantly. Plasma energy at that level would burn through any organic matter in milliseconds. The arena fell silent except for the crackling of energy. Chen did not run. She did not duck. Instead, she raised her bare hand toward the incoming bolt and caught it. Thexani's 4 hearts stopped beating for a moment. The plasma bolt, which should have killed the human instantly, wrapped around Chen's fingers like glowing liquid. The energy that could cut through steel flowed between her fingers like water. Impossible, High Priest Velmor whispered. The arena was completely silent now. Thousands of beings stared in shock. The plasma bolt continued to swirl around Chen's hand, but she showed no sign of pain. No burns, no damage at all. She looked as calm as if she were holding a ball of light. Chen examined the plasma in her hand like it was something interesting but not unusual. She moved her fingers and the energy responded. It stretched and compressed. She formed it into a perfect sphere, then flattened it into a disk. The plasma obeyed her will completely. Thexani felt her world tilting. According to the sacred codex, this was impossible. Plasma could only be controlled through divine blessing and proper conducting materials. Bare flesh could not touch it. Organic beings could not shape it without protection. Yet here was proof that everything she believed was wrong. Chen began to move the plasma through more complex patterns. She split the energy into multiple streams and made them dance around her body. She reformed them into geometric shapes that would have required years of training for any blessed warrior to create. And she did it all with casual ease, like it was the most natural thing in the world. "Stop this," someone shouted from the stands. It was Korthak, the Gorlak high priest. "This is heresy. Dark magic." Other voices joined in. Some species were calling for Chen to be arrested. Others were demanding explanations. A few were kneeling, thinking they had witnessed a new form of divine blessing. Chen seemed unaware of the chaos she had caused. She compressed the plasma back into a single point, held it for a moment, then dispersed it harmlessly into the air. The energy simply vanished, leaving no trace that it had ever existed. She looked up at the judge's platform and spoke calmly. "Was that sufficient for the trial?" High Priest Velmor could not speak. His mouth opened and closed like a fish. Texani found her voice first. "How?" she asked. "How did you do that?" Chen tilted her head like she did not understand the question. "Do what? Manipulate the plasma? It's a basic skill. All human military personnel learn it." "Basic skill?" Texani's voice cracked. "You touched plasma with bare flesh." "Yes," Chen said simply. "Is that unusual?" Our briefing materials mentioned that other species used tools, but we assumed that was just preference. The arena erupted again. Arguments broke out between different delegations. Some species were demanding that the humans be examined for hidden technology. Others wanted them arrested for violating sacred law. The chaos was growing worse by the minute. Chen turned to her fellow humans and said something in their language. One of them stepped forward and also began removing his gloves. "No." High Priest Velmor found his voice. "Stop. We must examine you first. We must understand." But the second human had already activated another plasma array. This time, instead of catching a bolt, he seemed to generate plasma energy from his own body. Bright streams of energy flowed from his fingertips. He shaped them into a complex sculpture that hung in the air like frozen lightning. Texani's legs gave out. She collapsed into her chair, staring at the impossible sight. Two humans were manipulating plasma energy without any divine blessing. Without any tools. They were doing things that the sacred codex said were impossible. "Commander," Krixtal said urgently, "what do we do?" Texani did not know. In all her years as a warrior, she had never faced anything like this. The humans were breaking the fundamental laws of the universe. Or maybe the laws were not as fundamental as everyone believed. High Priest Velmor was shouting orders. "Clear the arena! Emergency council meeting! All delegations to remain for questioning." But many of the alien species were already leaving. Some looked terrified. Others appeared angry. The ethereal Sivak delegation was having what looked like a heated discussion in their strange whistling language. Chen walked over to the judge's platform as her companion dispersed his plasma sculpture. "I apologize if we have caused some confusion," she said. "We were not aware that our abilities were unusual. Perhaps we should have mentioned them in our application." "Unusual?" Velmor's voice was shrill. "You have just performed miracles. Or blasphemy. We cannot tell which." "Neither," Chen said calmly. "Just basic energy manipulation. We learned to do this on our homeworld. The electrical storms there are quite severe. Our people adapted over time." "Adapted?" Texani managed to speak. "You mean evolved?" "Naturally. Yes, most humans can do this to some degree. Military training just refines the ability." The words hit Texani like physical blows. Natural evolution. No divine blessing. No special tools. The humans had developed these abilities on their own, through normal biological processes. It meant that plasma manipulation was not a gift from the gods. It was just another natural ability like sight or hearing. "This cannot be," High Priest Velmor said. "The sacred codex clearly states that plasma manipulation requires divine blessing. The Ascended Ones wrote the laws of physics themselves." Chen looked genuinely puzzled. "Laws of physics? I don't understand. Physics is just how the universe works. Energy can be manipulated by any biological system with the right neural pathways and electromagnetic field generation." "Electromagnetic fields?" Texani repeated the unfamiliar words. "Yes, all living things generate electrical fields. Most species just never learned to control them consciously. We had to, because of our world's environment. More impossible words. More concepts that did not exist in any of their sciences. Texani felt like her mind was breaking. Everything she had learned, everything she believed about the universe, was being torn apart by simple statements from this small human. High Priest Velmore was backed against the wall, literally and figuratively. You must be tested, examined. We must understand how this is possible. Of course, Chen said agreeably. We're happy to cooperate. Though I should mention that we have 4 more ships arriving tomorrow with additional personnel. If you want to test our abilities thoroughly, you'll have plenty of subjects. 4 more ships, more humans with these impossible abilities. Texani realized that this was not just a single anomaly. This was an entire species that could do things the Sacred Codex said were impossible. Commander, Crixtal whispered urgently. The crowd is getting restless. Some of them are saying the humans are demons. Others think they're new gods. We need to restore order. Texani looked out at the chaos in the arena. Beings from dozens of species were arguing, praying, or fleeing in terror. The careful order of the sacred trials had completely collapsed. She thought about her own experiences with plasma weapons. The way the energy felt when channeled through her blessed gauntlets. The sense of connection to something greater than herself. The certainty that she was touching divine power. Had it all been a lie? Clear the arena, she ordered. Emergency protocols. All humans to be escorted to secure quarters. Not as prisoners, she added quickly, seeing Chen's expression. For their own protection. And ours. As the arena slowly emptied, Texani stared at the spot where Chen had caught the plasma bolt. The sand there looked normal. No scorch marks. No residual energy. Nothing to show that the impossible had just happened, but she had seen it. They all had seen it. A human had caught pure plasma energy with bare flesh and shaped it like clay. In that moment, everything changed. The universe was not what they thought it was. The gods were not what they thought they were. And Texani was no longer sure what she thought about anything. The sacred trials were over. But something much more important was just beginning. 3 days had passed since the trials, and Zephyria Prime was in chaos. Emergency councils met around the clock. Religious leaders argued in the temples. Scientists demanded access to the humans for study. The capital city buzzed with rumors and fear. Texani stood outside the humans' quarters in the diplomatic wing. Inside, Captain Chen and her team were being questioned by teams of experts. Doctors, priests, physicists, and theologians took turns trying to understand what they had witnessed. Any progress? Asked Sub-Leader Crixtal, joining her in the hallway. None that makes sense, Texani replied. The medical scans show they are completely organic. No cybernetic implants. No artificial enhancements. No exotic matter in their blood or bones. What about technological devices? Hidden equipment? Nothing. They've been stripped, scanned, and examined by every piece of equipment we have. They're just biological. Normal organic beings who happen to be able to manipulate plasma energy with their bare hands. Crixtal's antenna drooped. The priests are calling it impossible. They say the humans must be lying somehow. Through the observation window, Texani could see Chen sitting calmly at a table. She was surrounded by 3 Velthari scientists, 2 Kethvar theologians, and a Gorlak physicist. They were all talking at once, gesturing wildly. Chen just listened patiently and answered their questions in her calm, steady voice. She doesn't act like someone who's lying, Texani said. She acts like someone who doesn't understand why everyone is so upset. Maybe that's the lie. The door opened, and High Priest Velmore emerged. His white robes were wrinkled, and his face looked haggard. He had not slept since the trials. Anything? Texani asked. Velmore shook his head. She maintains the same story. Humans developed these abilities naturally on their homeworld. She insists it's just normal biology that we don't understand. What do the other species say? Chaos. The ethereal Sivak delegation left this morning without explanation. The Gorlak High Council is demanding a full investigation. The Velthari want to dissect the humans to study their biology. And Chen agreed to that? Surprisingly, yes. She said they would be happy to provide tissue samples for analysis. She seems genuinely eager to help us understand. Velmore paused. That's what worries me. Either she's the most skilled liar in the galaxy or she's telling the truth. And if she's telling the truth, Velmore's shoulders slumped. Then everything we believe about the universe is wrong. A commotion down the hallway caught their attention. Dr. Zephyrin, the head of xenobiology, was hurrying toward them with a datapad clutched in his hands. His usually neat appearance was disheveled. "High Priest, Commander, you need to see this." "What is it?" Velmore asked. "The tissue samples. We've completed the analysis." Dr. Zephrin's voice was shaking. "The humans, their cellular structure. It's impossible, but it's real." He handed over the datapad. Thexani looked at the display, but the complex biological diagrams meant nothing to her. "Explain it simply," she said. "Their nerve cells generate and control electromagnetic fields," Dr. Zephyrin said, "not just tiny bioelectric impulses like normal beings. Actual electromagnetic fields strong enough to manipulate charged particles. Like plasma." "That's impossible," Velmore said automatically. "That's what I thought. But the evidence is right here. Their entire nervous system is adapted for this. They have specialized cells that can store and release electromagnetic energy. Their brain structure includes areas we've never seen in any other species." Texani felt a cold dread settling in her stomach. "You're saying they evolved this way?" "Naturally. Not just evolved. They had to evolve this way." Captain Chen mentioned electrical storms on their homeworld. "I looked up their planet's specifications. The electromagnetic radiation there is hundreds of times stronger than on any civilized world. Any species living there would either develop these abilities or go extinct." "But the Sacred Codex says," Velmore began. "The Sacred Codex says that plasma manipulation requires divine blessing," Dr. Zephyrin finished. "But what if it doesn't? What if plasma manipulation is just a natural ability that most species never developed?" The words hung in the air like poison. Texani thought about all the times she had used her blessed gauntlets. The sense of divine connection she felt. The certainty that she was channeling the power of the gods. "You're suggesting the Ascended Ones lied to us?" she said quietly. "I'm suggesting maybe we misunderstood," Dr. Zephyrin said. "Or maybe—" He did not finish the sentence.
He did not need to.
They all knew what he was thinking. High Priest Velmore was staring at the datapad like it might bite him. "This cannot be made public, not yet. The panic would be too late," Crixtal said, pointing down the hallway. Another group was approaching. Texani recognized Minister Calthon from the Planetary Council, along with several other high-ranking officials. Their expressions were grim. "High Priest," Minister Calthon said without preamble, "we need to discuss the situation. The other human ships have arrived." "What?" Velmore's voice cracked. 4 ships, just as Captain Chen predicted. They've requested permission to land. And they've sent a message saying they're here to help with any questions about human abilities. Texani felt the ground shifting under her feet. More humans. More beings who could do impossible things. The situation was spiraling out of control. "How many?" she asked. 200 personnel total. Scientists, engineers, military advisors. Captain Chen says they want to share their knowledge with us. "Share their knowledge," Velmore repeated slowly. "The knowledge that makes our gods look like liars." Minister Calthon's expression darkened. "That's exactly what we're afraid of. The implications of this situation go far beyond one species' unusual abilities. If the humans are right, if plasma manipulation is natural, then what else have we been wrong about?" Dr. Zephyrin cleared his throat. "Minister, there's something else. I've been reviewing the historical records. Before the Ascended Ones made contact with our species, there are mentions of individuals who could manipulate energy in unusual ways. The old stories called them legends or myths." "What kind of stories?" Thexani asked. "Kethvar warriors who could channel lightning without tools. Velthari artists who could shape light with their minds. Gorlak smiths who could forge metal with their bare hands. All dismissed as primitive superstitions after the Ascended Ones taught us the true way to use energy." The implications hit Thexani like a physical blow. "You're saying we could always do these things? Before the Ascended Ones came? I'm saying maybe the humans aren't unique. Maybe they're just the only species that never lost their natural abilities." High Priest Velmore was gripping the datapad so tightly his knuckles were white. "If this is true, if the Ascended Ones have been limiting us, controlling us, then we need answers," Minister Calthon said firmly. "Real answers, not more tests or theories." "What are you suggesting?" Thexani asked. "We let the humans land. All of them. We listen to what they have to say, and we learn everything they're willing to teach us." "The High Council will never approve that," Velmore protested. "The other species are already in panic. If we openly accept that the humans are right about everything, then maybe it's time for some panic," Minister Calthon said coldly. Maybe it's time to stop protecting comfortable lies and start facing uncomfortable truths. Texani looked through the observation window again. Captain Chen was still answering questions patiently. She had agreed to every test, submitted to every examination, cooperated with every inquiry. She acted like someone who had nothing to hide. What if she's telling the truth? Texani said quietly. What if everything we believe about the Ascended Ones is wrong? What if they've been controlling us for thousands of years? Then we find out why, Minister Calthon said, and we decide what to do about it. The decision was made. The human ships would be allowed to land. The knowledge they brought would be shared. And whatever came next, the galaxy would never be the same. Texani thought about the plasma bolt wrapping around Chen's fingers. Such a simple act, such a small moment. But it was the moment when everything changed. When the lies started to crack, when the truth began to break free. She just hoped they would survive what came next. The human ships landed like seeds of revolution. Within hours, Zephyria Prime's scientific community was in upheaval. The humans had brought not just personnel, but equipment and knowledge that challenged everything the galaxy thought it knew about physics. Texani stood in the converted conference hall that had become an impromptu research center. Humans worked side by side with alien scientists, demonstrating abilities that should have been impossible. She watched a human engineer named Martinez show a group of Velthari physicists how to generate electromagnetic fields using only concentrated thought. The key is understanding that consciousness and electromagnetic energy are connected, Martinez was saying. Your brains already produce bioelectric fields. You just need to learn to amplify and direct them. One of the Velthari, Dr. Silthesis, was taking careful notes. But the Sacred Codex clearly states that energy manipulation requires divine conduits. What if the Sacred Codex is wrong? Martinez asked gently. The question hung in the air like a bomb waiting to explode. Dr. Silthesis's crystalline features flickered with uncertainty. For her entire life, the Sacred Codex had been absolute truth. Now a human was calmly suggesting it might be mistaken. Texani moved to another station where Captain Chen was working with Dr. Zephyrin and a team of xenobiologists. They had brain scanning equipment set up, monitoring Chen's neural activity as she manipulated plasma energy. Fascinating, Dr. Zephyrin was saying, staring at the readouts. The electromagnetic patterns are completely different from anything we've ever recorded. Your entire cortex lights up during energy manipulation. That's normal for humans, Chen said. We use multiple brain regions simultaneously for this kind of work. It's probably why it took us so long to figure out space travel. We were too focused on developing these abilities. But how did you discover you could do this? Dr. Zephyrin asked. We always could. The oldest human records mention energy workers and lightning callers. We thought they were myths until we started studying them scientifically. Texani stepped closer. You mean your people knew about these abilities before you joined the Covenant? Oh yes, for thousands of years. We were actually surprised when we met other species and learned they couldn't do the same things. We assumed everyone had similar abilities. Dr. Zephyrин's face paled. Captain, what would you say if I told you that our oldest legends also speak of individuals with such abilities? Before the Ascended Ones made contact, Chen's expression grew serious. I would say that's very interesting. And very concerning. Why concerning? Because it suggests your species had natural abilities that were somehow suppressed or forgotten after contact with the Ascended Ones. The word sent a chill through Texani. She thought about the ancient stories her grandmother used to tell. Tales of Kethvar warriors who could summon lightning without weapons. She had always assumed they were just children's stories. Dr. Zephyrin, she said slowly, do you still have access to the pre-contact historical records? Some. Most were declared heretical after the Ascended Ones arrived. They're stored in the sealed archives. We need to see them. 3 hours later, they stood in the underground archives beneath the Capitol. Ancient data crystals lined the walls covered in dust and neglect. High Priest Velmor had reluctantly given them access, though he looked like he was attending his own funeral. These records are thousands of years old, the archive keeper warned. Many are corrupted or incomplete. Chen activated a portable scanner and began examining the crystals. This technology is fascinating. Quantum storage and crystalline matrices. We use something similar but not as sophisticated. The Ascended Ones taught us how to make them, Velmor said automatically. Actually, Chen said, studying her readings. These crystals predate the Ascended One's arrival by several thousand years. The manufacturing techniques are completely different from Covenant standard technology. Another crack in the foundation of everything they believed. Thexani felt like she was standing on ice that was slowly breaking apart. They loaded the first crystal into a reader. Ancient text appeared on the screen written in Old Kethvar. Thexani translated as she read, Chronicle of the Lightning Dancer's Third Era. The warriors of Clan Thex gathered under the storm-sworn moon. Morgaki the Lightbringer called down the skyfire with his bare hands. She stopped reading. This describes plasma manipulation. Detailed techniques. Training methods, Chen nodded grimly. Keep reading, Thexani continued. The lightning dancers were the greatest warriors of their age. They could shape energy like clay, call storms from clear skies, and heal grievous wounds with pure light. Their powers came not from the gods but from within themselves, as natural as breathing. Natural as breathing, Dr. Zephyrin repeated. Just like the humans, they loaded crystal after crystal. The pattern was the same across all species. Ancient records of individuals with extraordinary abilities, detailed accounts of energy manipulation, matter transformation, and feats that the modern galaxy considered impossible. Then they found the crystal that changed everything. It was from the ethereal Sivak archives. The serpentine species had the longest recorded history in the galaxy. Their crystal contained records going back nearly 50,000 years. The visitors came from the void between stars, Thexani read, translating the ancient Sivak script. They claimed to be gods, bearers of divine truth. They said our abilities were dangerous, unstable, a threat to cosmic order. They offered to teach us control, to give us stability through their blessed tools and sacred knowledge. The Ascended Ones, Chen said softly. The great lie began with promises of safety, Thexani continued reading. The visitors gave us devices to channel our abilities, sacred codices to guide our actions. They said the old ways were chaotic and destructive. Many believed them, grateful for the order they brought. But the wise elders saw the truth. The devices did not enhance our abilities. They limited them. The archive fell silent except for the hum of ancient machinery. Thexani stared at the crystal, her 4 hands trembling. The devices limited them, she repeated. Chen's voice was gentle but firm. Your blessed gauntlets, your focusing crystals, your sacred tools, they're not amplifying your natural abilities. They're restricting them, keeping you from accessing your full potential. But why? High Priest Velmore's voice was barely a whisper. Why would the Ascended Ones do such a thing? Chen activated another of her devices. A holographic display appeared, showing star charts and energy readings. Because a galaxy full of species with unlimited abilities would be impossible to control. But a galaxy where every species depends on technology that only one group understands, that's easy to rule. The implications crashed over Thexani like a tidal wave. The Ascended Ones were not gods. They were conquerors. They had not blessed the galaxy with divine gifts. They had enslaved it with artificial limitations. How long? Dr. Zephyrin asked. How long have they been controlling us? According to your records, at least 40,000 years, Chen said. Possibly longer. 40,000 years of lies, Thexani said numbly, not just lies. Systematic suppression of your natural evolution. Look at this. Chen pulled up another display. Every species in the Covenant shows signs of genetic drift away from enhanced abilities. You've been bred to be dependent on their technology. Bred? Velmore's voice cracked. Population control, selective reproduction policies, medical treatments that suppress certain genetic expressions, all disguised as divine guidance for species improvement. Thexani felt rage building in her chest. 40,000 years of stolen potential. Generations of her people who could have been so much more, reduced to dependence on tools that kept them weak. Can it be undone? She asked. Chen nodded. The genetic changes aren't permanent. With proper training and the right understanding, most individuals can relearn their natural abilities. It will take time, but it's possible. You're willing to teach us. We're willing to help you teach yourselves. These abilities belong to you. They always did. Dr. Zephyrin was staring at his scanner readings. The bioelectromagnetic patterns. If Chen is right, I should be able to generate similar fields. He closed his eyes and concentrated. For a moment, nothing happened. Then slowly, sparks of energy began to dance between his fingers. Not the controlled plasma of blessed devices, but raw, chaotic, beautiful energy born from his own body. I can feel it, he whispered, tears streaming down his face. I can feel what we lost. High Priest Velmore was backing toward the door. This is heresy, blasphemy. The Ascended Ones will return. They will punish us for this. Let them come, Texani said, her voice hard as steel. Let them try to explain 40,000 years of lies. Chen's scanner suddenly chimed with an urgent alert. She looked at the display and her face went pale. What is it? Texani asked. Long-range sensors are detecting massive energy signatures at the edge of your system. Ships. Very large ships. How large? Chen looked up, her eyes grim. Large enough to sterilize a planet. The Ascended Ones were coming home. The Ascended Ones' ships appeared in Zephyria Prime's sky like dark omens, massive vessels that dwarfed anything in the Covenant fleet. Their hulls seemed to absorb light itself. They had been absent from the galaxy for 3 centuries, but their return sent waves of terror across every inhabited world. Texani stood in the emergency command center, watching the tactical displays with a mixture of fear and rage. Around her, representatives from dozens of species argued in panicked voices. Some demanded immediate surrender. Others called for desperate resistance. A few had already fled the system entirely. Attention, beings of the Covenant, came a voice that seemed to speak directly into their minds. The Ascended One's telepathic communication had not changed in 40,000 years. We have returned to restore divine order. The heretical knowledge being spread on this world will cease immediately. Captain Chen stood calmly beside Texani, seemingly unaffected by the overwhelming psychic presence. Interesting, she said quietly. Their telepathic abilities are artificial too. Technological enhancement, not natural evolution. How can you tell? Texani asked. The transmission pattern. It's coming from devices on their ships, not their minds. Probably the same technology they used to convince your ancestors they were gods. High Priest Velmore stumbled toward them, his faith shattered but his fear still intact. Commander, we must surrender. Comply with their demands. Perhaps they will show mercy. No, Texani said firmly. No more compliance. No more mercy from false gods, the voice spoke again, more forceful this time. The humans will be surrendered for immediate termination. Their contamination of divine order cannot be tolerated. You have 1 standard hour to comply. Around the command center, beings began to panic. The Gorlak delegation was already preparing to leave. Several Velthari had prostrated themselves in religious terror. The carefully built alliance was fracturing under the weight of ancient conditioning. But not everyone was breaking. Dr. Zephyrin stepped forward, energy crackling around his hands. In the past few hours, he had made remarkable progress in relearning his species' natural abilities. Commander, I've been in contact with scientists on other worlds. The knowledge is spreading faster than they can suppress it. How many worlds know? Chen asked. 47 systems so far. The information we shared has been transmitted across the entire Covenant communication network. Every species is learning about their stolen heritage. Minister Calthon joined them, his expression grim but determined. The response is mixed. Some worlds are in religious crisis. Others are organizing resistance movements. A few have already begun teaching natural energy manipulation. And the Ascended One's response? Panic. They're sending fleets to every system that's shown signs of awakening. But they don't have enough ships to suppress the entire galaxy at once, Chen nodded. That's what we hoped. They maintained control through fear and ignorance. Once the truth spreads, their power becomes finite. A new voice cut through the command center, young, clear, and completely unafraid. The Ascended Ones have been challenged before. Everyone turned to see a small Sivak female slithering toward them. She was barely more than a juvenile, her scales still bright with youth. But her eyes held ancient knowledge. Who are you? Texani asked. I am Sisra, keeper of the hidden memory. My family has preserved the true history for 50,000 years, passed down in secret from generation to generation. What do you know about previous challenges? 17 times in recorded history, species have discovered their true nature and risen against the Ascended Ones. Each time they were crushed because they fought alone. But this time, Sisera's eyes gleamed. This time you have humans, Chen looked puzzled. What's special about humans in this context? You evolved on a death world free from their influence. Your abilities developed naturally without limitation, but more importantly, you think differently. When other species discover they've been enslaved, they feel despair. Humans feel anger. Anger is useful, Texani said, understanding. Despair is paralyzing. Exactly, and anger spreads faster than fear. As if summoned by their words, reports began flooding in from across the galaxy. Human ships were appearing in system after system, not as conquerors but as teachers. They shared knowledge freely, helped other species rediscover their abilities, and most importantly showed them how to resist. On Velthar Prime, crystalline beings were learning to manipulate light itself, creating defensive shields that could deflect energy weapons. The Gorlak homeworld was reporting miners who could reshape metal with their bare hands, turning asteroids into starships. Even the primitive Zephyrians were rediscovering their ancestors' ability to call lightning from the sky. 30 minutes remaining, the Ascended One's voice proclaimed. Surrender the humans or face obliteration. Chen walked to the communication array. May I? Thexani nodded. Chen activated the system and spoke calmly into the transmitter. This is Captain Sarah Chen of the Terran Defense Force, responding to the unidentified vessels in Zephyria system. You are trespassing in Covenant space and threatening member worlds. State your intentions and authority. The psychic pressure that followed was crushing. Several beings collapsed under the mental assault, but Chen stood firm, protected by humanity's natural resistance to artificial telepathy. You dare question us? We who shaped the very laws of physics? You didn't shape the laws of physics, Chen replied calmly. You just told everyone lies about how they work. And now the truth is out. Truth? We brought order to chaos, stability to a galaxy of primitives. You brought slavery to free peoples, but that's ending now. The tactical displays lit up with new contacts. Ships were dropping out of hyperspace all around the system. Not just human vessels, but ships from every species in the Covenant. They came in small groups, most badly armed and poorly coordinated. But they came. The Velthari Third Fleet. Requesting permission to assist, came a voice over the communication system. Gorlak mining ships, standing by for orders. Sivak exploration vessels ready to defend. One by one, species that had been terrified of the Ascended Ones for millennia were choosing to fight back. The anger was spreading just as Sisera had predicted. Fools, the mental voice raged. You throw away 40,000 years of peace for lies. Chen's voice remained steady. We're choosing 40,000 years of freedom over 40,000 years of slavery. The Ascended One's ships began to move, their weapons charging with ominous energy. But as they prepared to fire, something unexpected happened. The weapons failed. Energy that should have been focused into devastating beams instead dispersed harmlessly into space. Across their fleet, system after system began to malfunction. What's happening? Minister Kalthon asked. Dr. Zephyrin was monitoring the energy readings, his face lit with wonder. Their technology depends on quantum field manipulation, but there are beings throughout the galaxy who are learning to consciously control those same fields. Sabotage? Not sabotage. Liberation. They built their power on controlling forces that should be natural. Now that beings across the galaxy are reclaiming those abilities, their artificial control is breaking down. On the main display, one of the Ascended One's ships was losing power entirely. Its hull began to crack as internal systems failed. Whatever technology had made them seem godlike was dependent on the very energies that free beings were now learning to manipulate. Impossible, the mental voice screamed, but it was weaker now, desperate. Chen stepped forward. Nothing is impossible. You taught the galaxy that lie to keep them controlled, but humans never learned to accept limitations, and now we're teaching that lesson to everyone else. The largest of the Ascended One's ships suddenly exploded in a brilliant flash. Not from weapon fire, but from internal cascade failure as its quantum systems collapsed under the interference of thousands of awakened minds. We will return, the voice promised, but it was fading fast. We will restore order. If you return, Thexani said, her own voice now carrying across the communication system, you'll face a galaxy that knows the truth. Free beings who have reclaimed their birthright. You may have ruled through deception for 40,000 years, but that ends today. The remaining Ascended One's ships began to retreat, their systems failing one by one. They had ruled through fear and artificial limitations. But fear fades when faced with truth, and limitations crumble when people remember they were never real. As the dark ships vanished into hyperspace, Thexani looked around the command center. Beings from dozens of species stood together, many of them glowing with newfound energy abilities. The careful divisions that had kept them separated were dissolving. What happens now? Dr. Zephyrin asked. Chen smiled. Now you rebuild. Create a galaxy based on truth instead of lies. Explore the full potential of what your species can become. And humans? Humans will help if you want us to. But this is your galaxy to shape, your freedom to enjoy. Thexani thought about the plasma bolt that had started it all. Such a simple thing. Chen catching energy with her bare hand. But in that moment, everything had changed. The lies had started to crack. The truth had begun to emerge. She looked out at the stars, seeing them differently now. Not as subjects of distant gods, but as the natural birthright of free beings who were finally remembering what they could.